This is the Royal Report.
Good evening, welcome to the Royal Report. I'm Caroline de Russo, and this is what we have for you on the show tonight. The Sussexes have once again been called out for their climate hypocrisy, spruiking environmentalism while they travel on private jets. And the backlash to Harry and Meghan's non-royal tour has been severe. We'll give you the latest on that. Plus, Princess Catherine has taken her first steps toward a return to royal duties, and we'll be joined by Angela Levin in London for the details. But before we get to that, this week the Duke and Duchess of Sussex celebrate their 6-year wedding anniversary. And that gives us cause to look back over those 6 years and consider what could have been. 6 years ago, there was an unmistakable hope and excitement, a freshness that swept through the royal family and through the British public on the back of the marriage of Harry and Meghan. Perhaps a slight modernisation of the way the firm did business, new blood, new enthusiasm, and another set of hands to assist with the royal workload. But I'm not sure how many people would have been prepared for the turmoil, the tawdriness and the carnage which ultimately ensued. In fact, it's almost impressive that it turned out as poorly as it did. Sure, there are always going to be teething issues. I think we all understand that. But I'm not sure anyone saw the allegations of bullying and staff turnover coming, or throwing the toys out of the cot and moving to the US, or the airing of family laundry for financial gain, or the allegations of racism, or the total breakdown of family relations. And certainly no one could have anticipated the least private world privacy tour, the blatant ideological hypocrisy, and the total rinsing of the Sussexes that they copped from South Park and others. Instead of going about a private life, they unintentionally became a subject for satire and ridicule. And instead of building their own purpose, the Sussexes have continued to feed off their connection to royalty, seemingly trying to meld royalty with celebrity, the Montecito royal family, if you will. And 6 years down the track, it all looks like an unmitigated shambles. Joining me now is media writer for The Australian, Sophie Ellsworth, and royal expert and journalist Pandora Forsyth. Ladies, Pandora, 6 years after the Sussexes were married, and expectation and reality couldn't have been further apart. Is that right?
Yeah, you're quite right there. I think people are very confused about their brand at the moment. We've obviously had them saying they want a private life, and I think people respected that, regardless of the fact that they might have been disappointed that they've stepped down from the royal family in a working capacity. But since then, we've had interviews, we've had books, we've had Netflix deals, which of course there's the argument to be financially independent off the back of it, but also slamming the royal family at the same time. And now, of course, we've had this non-royal tour to Nigeria, which many people have thought was a success in many ways, but also begs the question, well, if you didn't want to be doing this, then why did you step down from the royal family, as it had all of the elements of what a royal tour had had? So again, there's just a massive question mark over Harry and Meghan at the moment.
And Sophie, the media were captured by Harry and Meghan from the get-go, and in a positive way, to be fair. But it seems almost everyone is struggling to find the good, authentic news story about this couple.
Well, Caroline, they were the hottest thing in town when they hit centre stage. And they had positive press, endless positive press. But we're 6 years down the track, and what a disaster it's been. I mean, their modus operandi has been to trash the royal family. Their business model since they moved to America has been basically, let's bring down the royal family and make money out of it. They are so out of touch. They are, people have just turned their backs on them, not only in the UK, but even here in Australia. So the damage is done. They are damaged goods, in my view, and they won't be able to make a comeback. Even if they do try and do that, I think they're so far down the road of being disliked, it's almost impossible to turn things around now.
And Pandora, the dramas just seem to continue. So can you tell us about this issue with the Archwell Foundation, which hit the news in a really big way this week?
Yeah, so the Archewell Foundation was set up when Harry and Meghan left the UK to go to California. And a lot of their charity work is through this foundation. Now, this week, it was public knowledge, as it's on public record. For them, unfortunately, they were handed a delinquency notice. This is due to the fact that a cheque apparently had gone missing in the post or wasn't delivered. And this was on public record and hit all of the headlines. This is now apparently being cleared up and a new cheque has been sent in the post. But this is not the press that they need off the back of the Nigeria tour, and they just don't seem to have the luck, unfortunately. But you would think for something of such a foundation which is set up in such a public domain, you would think something like this just should not be happening, whether that be careering the cheque if possible, but leaving it just a post to hope that it's going to get there on time. It's not a good look. But apparently now it has been sorted, and the governor of California has said that it was all a bit of a technical mishap and people need to move on.
Speaking of which, Sophie, and off the back of what Pandora said, the criticism of the Sussexes' visit to Nigeria, that does continue. We understand the royal family were very unhappy with the royal veneer of that trip. Is that correct?
Well, that's what the reports are saying, Caroline, that they were deeply unhappy with this trip to Nigeria that looked like, sounded like, it felt like a royal tour. And they are no longer royals. So they're carrying on as if they are still well and truly part of the royal family. And this is definitely getting people offside. They were touring around Nigeria, visiting charities and schools and so forth, injured servicemen. And this is really making it a mixed message as to what they are actually trying to achieve. They want one foot in the royal camp, but they want one foot out of it as well. And you can't have it both ways.
No, I think that's right. And Pandora, do you think this is intentional on the part of the Sussexes, or are they just doing what they know as part of their own brand?
Look, we know that Harry has always worked with injured servicemen after his time in the military, and I think we've got to be fair on that point. And they have always actually worked, both of them individually, with charities over time. So fine. But this is a little bit of a slap in the face for the royal family, because they said that they wanted a private life and they wanted to be getting on with their own things. Whereas a royal tour, they essentially just did one without the royal status attached to it and created headlines all around the world. So many people might see it as a missed opportunity, but many people also see it as a dig at the royal family. And I'm not saying that the work that they did there wasn't brilliant, because in many aspects it was. But what do they actually want to achieve by this? Is it the fact that they want to carry on doing royal work without having to actually be working royals and be in the UK and actually, being able to carry on with that work as a royal family member? Or do they want the benefits of living in California, having the independence to carry on with those Netflix deals and those Spotify deals and the book deals, etc., etc.? What do they actually want here? And is it opening a door for the royal family again, or are they just going to slam it shut?
And interestingly, Sophie, there are also reports that the Sussexes were flown to Nigeria for free by an airline company boss who was a wanted fugitive in the US. Now, is that right? And if so, is this more of that potential brand damages that the Sussexes really don't need?
Well, look, Caroline, we don't know for sure if this report, if they were aware of this actually involvement with the airline and these alleged fraud allegations by one of their bosses. So we need to give them the benefit of the doubt here. But this, again, is something that surely Harry and Meghan's people, should I say, should have checked out before they jumped on this plane. And let's get to the point about the hypocrisy of them taking private planes around. This is not a good look for them, and it could backfire badly. So they need to be more careful with who they're getting involved with, because everyone is watching what they are doing very closely, because they are, always virtue signalling and telling people how to live their lives, they need to be careful who they associate with. And if they appear to be associating with people who are, alleged fraudsters, this can be very damaging for them.
Absolutely, Sophie. And how many times has this private jet issue been raised? And for some reason, they continue to do it, almost as if they're ignoring it entirely. I find it absolutely astonishing. But there's also this week an interesting piece in The Telegraph from Petronella Wyatt, and it's titled, "It's Time to Bring Harry Home." Now, Pandora, what was the main argument here? Do you think it has merit?
Yeah, she went on to say in this Telegraph piece that it was for family and for country, and that the brothers should have a reconciliation. Well, look, I think we've all been wanting that for many years, and I think that would be great if we could all get along and be happy families. But are we completely forgetting everything which Harry and Meghan have done, not only directly about royal family members, but also loved ones of the royal family as well, and the monarchy itself? I think there's so much more that needs to be done in conversations. And Harry was in London and didn't even see his brother, or quite frankly, his sister-in-law, or his father. So yes, wouldn't it be great if we could all get along and it would all be absolutely fine? But I think in reality, is this ever going to happen? And how can they trust Harry and Meghan again to know that they're not going to step back from royal duties and cause upset and cause further upset as well to Charles, our king now? We just can't risk that. And I think this is the issue, is trust here. And will they ever be able to build back up that trust? Well, I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately, and that's the brutal reality.
And I think that's very well said. And lastly, Sophie, another European royal is planning a move to the US. Elizabeth of Belgium, is she going to do it differently and better? I've got about 30 seconds for you.
Well, I don't know if she's going to get the media coverage, that Meghan Markle has got, but let's see how she does go moving to the US. She's only 22, she's very young, she's a future queen, but all eyes will be on her. She's very elegant, very intelligent, and I think people will be very interested to see how she handles her move to the US.
Absolutely, Sophie, and hopefully she learns some lessons from the past. Sophie Ellsworth and Pandora Forsyth, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Coming up, Princess Catherine has launched a heartwarming initiative. Could this spark her royal return to duties? Angela Levin joins me from London next. Welcome back to the show. Joining me now is royal biographer and commentator Angela Levin. Angela, welcome back to the show. And I'm going to ask you the same question I posed to my panel earlier. With Harry and Meghan celebrating their 6th wedding anniversary, how, over that period of time, did it go so wrong?
Yes, I mean, it's very upsetting, but it's their fault entirely. I had the good fortune of being one of the few presenters of the wedding, and I can tell you it was one of the best days of my life. 4 a.m. till 10 p.m. The sun was shining. I was so happy because I had written a biography of Prince Harry, that he'd found someone who didn't mind having a picture taken by the press and was now really in love. And I thought it was just wonderful. It should be wonderful within the palace because she could be very helpful with having modern ideas and different ideas, but actually discovered that Meghan won't be told anything. She has to win. She has to be out there in the front. I've been told that she expected to go immediately with the Queen on engagements and to tell her how to modernise it all. Now, anyone would know, you don't go to a new company yourself and expect to be running it within 5 minutes. You have to learn, you have to absorb. There's a change of country, change of friends, change of job, and she didn't want to know about that. And I think since they've been trying to smash the royal family down to prove that they're better, that they're more modern and that they're more interesting, And I think it's an absolute tragedy. They've made themselves unpopular. I don't think you wash your family linen in public. Many, many people have thought that about them. And to start criticizing them in a harsh, unforgiving way has made them lose their popularity.
Now, on to something more positive, and obviously it's been quiet on the Princess Catherine front, and for very obvious and good reason. But this week a new project has been reported on. Is this the beginning of Catherine's re-emergence to public life? We've got a clip of that. It's a new film about mental health. Here it is.
I think isolation plays a massive part within the farming industry. It's something that I've definitely felt.
We need to make change in order to go forward, otherwise we won't carry on. In the current sort of climate, the way farming's going, we have to kind of... A 200-acre holding now, as you can appreciate, won't sustain a family, so...
There's no guaranteed price, there's no guaranteed wage or anything like that.
No, I don't know about you, but it's been a tough year.
Maybe one of the most difficult.
Angela, mental health is such a serious and worldwide issue. No doubt her advocacy on this is welcome, as is, the potential comeback.
Yes, well, one hopes that this would mark the beginning of Princess coming back, but we don't know anything. Everything's kept very quiet. However, when Prince Charles became king, the duchy, a vast amount of land that he owns, went to William. And I think that is, for them, they want to building houses on there for people who don't have homes, but they also obviously want to help them with the mental health. And Catherine is brilliant about that. She and William set up a platform about mental health many years ago, well before Harry met Meghan. And then he joined them, and the three of them would talk about it and try to make it a problem that you can actually go and see a doctor about, and it's not shameful. And it worked extremely well. I heard from specialists that they had so many hundreds of people going to them and admitting they had a mental health issues. And now it's said quite easily to talk about it. And I think that farmers are having a bad time. There's a great attack about them eating, and people eating meat. You can't cope with the weather. Sometimes it's completely out of order. And I think it would be a wonderful thing if she looked after that. I mean, she's done very well with young children within families, how to deal with the problems of having young children and the crying and the change that happens to you as a parent. And I think she'd be brilliant at that. But we have to wait and see whether she's just going to outline it or whether she's actually going to do it herself and appear.
And I think we're all very eager to see her return, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But this week, King Charles' first portrait as king was unveiled. Mixed reviews. This is what the artist Jonathan Yeo had to say about the piece.
You're treading in sort of well-worn territory when you're doing a royal portrait, basically. And so you kind of want to, avoid cliches. And one of the things with, the fact he was going to be wearing a red uniform, and it's very bright red, the Welsh Guards tunic. If you paint that in, it's going to be the first thing you see, and maybe the only thing you see. Or do you do something to kind of like even it out? And so painting the background, the sort of reddish pink as well, just seemed like a slightly playful and more contemporary way of doing it.
Angela, it certainly is a markedly different piece from other former royal portraits. What's your view, and do you think the king has been well captured?
Yes, I love it, actually. I absolutely love it. I think the face of King Charles is absolutely extraordinary. You have so much there. You have determination. You have humanitarian feelings. You have a sense of humour. I mean, I think it's absolutely extraordinary, all that within the king. And you think it is him, really, if you didn't know otherwise. I love the butterfly on his shoulder, which some people say if somebody dies, a butterfly comes back to look after you. That could be his late mother, Queen Elizabeth. And it's also nature, which he is very keen of. And I love the colour because I think that it is very, very powerful. And yet within that, you see the king all there with his badges and his uniform. I think it's extremely moving and brilliantly done.
I think that's a wonderful way to describe it, Angela. And it's also been announced that the King and Queen will be attending D-Day commemorations in the UK and France next month. This will be Charles's first overseas trip since being diagnosed with cancer. Is this a testing of the waters for his recovery and later overseas trips down the track?
Well, I think we've now seen him. He's had 2 or 3 weeks where he's been allowed to attend what he wants to do. And 2 doctors actually signed papers that he was now well enough to travel overseas. I think the thing is he's still having treatment, but he was like becoming like a lion in a cage, and he was finding it very, very difficult to be at home. This man has worked day and most of the night since he was a very young man as heir to the throne, and he's not used to being at home. And the fact that he can come out, you can see how happy he looks, paler than normal, but he's actually yearning to be with people. And he and his mother also felt very strongly about the military, and that day is a very important one, and he very much wanted to go. We've had lots of things saying he's really working hard to get there and persuading people to let him, and he and Camilla and Prince William are all going to go over there and show their respect. There won't be very many people who were there at the time, and I think that that's also very important, that it might be the last time when any of the soldiers who were alive will still be living next year or the year after.
Angela Levin, thank you for joining us. Now, before we go, and to finish on a lighter note, right back where we started the show, and children can often be a challenge for their parents, including royal ones and including adult ones. Whoever came up with this video gag has a stunning sense of humour. That made me laugh so much. It is an absolute brilliant piece. And that's the show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Up next is Newsnight. Good night. We will see you next week.